Had no need to fight tonight.
The 2021-2022 season previews continue today with the Florida Panthers. Let me just say, it's still weird not having my hair. It's coming back though. It's coming back. As you can tell, I can't tell, like right there, the hair is starting to come down into the back of the hat. So we're making progress. But anyways, it's been almost a week. But anyways. Today we're looking at a team that, maybe overrated by some people, maybe underrated by some people, maybe fairly rated by other people. This team is really around everywhere, and this should be the year. This is probably one of the best Panthers cores I've ever seen. This should definitely be the year where the Florida Panthers win around. So let me know what you guys think about that. If you're new to the channel and you haven't already subscribed, please make sure to do so. We're trying to get to 1,000 by the end of the year. We're less than 60 away. I really would appreciate it if you would throw me a sub. And anyways, I won't waste any more of your time. Let's get into the preview. So last season for the Florida Panthers was, above all, a really just a breakout season. Honestly, this team took a massive step up from where they were last season. A 37-14-5 record for 79 points. And they were fourth in the NHL. And the crazy thing is they weren't even first in their division. We'll get to that team soon. But nonetheless, they faced the defending Stanley Cup champions, the Tampa Bay Lightning, and lost in 7 games. Unfortunate. It generally is unfortunate to see that. This Panthers team was so good and so entertaining during the 2021 season that I was even rooting for them against Tampa. And Tampa, for a while there, they were really one of my favorite teams. They've kind of lost that since other teams have gone above them. But, they were really one of my favorite teams for a while. And Florida earned my respect. I've always personally liked Florida. And they really earned my respect with the core they had. I thought the guys that rose up were just really unexpected. And they did very well. You could argue, they were in the division. Nashville was bad at points. Chicago was bad at points. Dallas was bad at points. Detroit's Detroit. Columbus. You can say all that stuff you want, but I still think this Florida Panthers team is very solid. And, they have to win around eventually, right? That being said, we move on into the key arrivals and the key departures. So we'll start off with the key departures here. They lost Alexander Wennberg through free agency to the Seattle Kraken. They lost a couple guys to the Seattle Kraken, actually. He was, a very solid top 6. He played second line at times, but, I think they kind of replaced enough depth to fill in that. They also lost Chris Driedger to the Seattle Kraken as well. And the thing is with Driedger, it's a little bit risky, to be honest, but are they going to take Bobrovsky? Do you want them to take Knight? No, they had a goaltending issue, or they had like a goaltending triangle, and, they got rid of that now that Driedger's gone. And Driedger was really good last season, so I expect them to do well in Seattle. As for the rest of the guys, you have Keith Yandle, who, of course, was bought out by the Florida Panthers this offseason and then signed with the Philadelphia Flyers on a 1-year deal. Then they also lost defenseman Anton Stroman. He went off to the Arizona Coyotes in another trade where Armstrong fleeced the team. Being completely honest there. They obviously need to get Stroman out for cap space. It was a good thing they had to do. Then they also lost Nikita Gusev to free agency, who currently does not have a team as we speak. So, that is their key departures. I say out of all those guys, the biggest one that hurts them is honestly either Chris Driedger or Alexander Wennberg. One of those two guys. Yandle, sure, he had that crazy game streak, but that he really wasn't that effective in Florida. Gusev was a rental. Stroman wasn't too good. So I'd say it was either Wennberg or Driedger that you could argue was their biggest loss. Now, on into the key arrivals for your Florida Panthers. You've got 3 guys here. And, the 3 guys, there's really only one that's big, and the other 2 are kind of just depth. They acquired Sam Reinhart in a big trade with the Buffalo Sabres that sent Devon Levi, a very solid goaltending prospect, which they already have a lot of those, over to Buffalo, and a first-round pick for Sam Reinhart. Reinhart is going to be a very solid top 6. Maybe you could even argue first-line forward in San Jose, in Florida. And I'm very excited to see how he's going to do for this Panthers team, because he's never really had the opportunity to play on an actual legitimate good team. He's been on the Sabres his entire career, and he's done well, and I can only imagine what he's going to do with Florida. As for the other guys, you have Joe Thornton, the man, the myth, the legend, who had one of the best beards in the NHL. It's kind of gone now, but you know what I mean. So yeah, Thornton, solid depth. He said the Panthers can win it. I don't really blame him. Then they also acquired for depth Zach Dalp, who will probably play some AHL lines there. I probably won't see him too much in the NHL, but you know what? He's still there, so we got to cover him. Now we move on into your 2022 projected lineups, and it is just it's really interesting. For the top 6, you have Jonathan Huberdeau, Alexander Barkov, and Sam Reinhart. Then you have Anthony Duclair, Sam Bennett, and Patrick Hornquist. Very solid top 6. Huberdeau, very solid. One of the most underrated players in the NHL. You could even argue him top 10. Barkov, very solid center. Gets underrated at points as well, but he also won the Selke Trophy this year, so I guess he's not underrated anymore. And then, of course, Sam Reinhart. Only the Lord can imagine what he's going to do with Florida since he's on an actual good team now. As for the second line, Duclair. I've always liked Duclair. He always bounced around the league before he got to Florida last season, and I really like this. I really like that core. As for Sam Bennett, Bennett came from Calgary in the trade deadline. They're obviously going to stick him around with the team. I really like that as well. And then Patrick Hornquist, I remember when that trade happened. It was a good trade for Florida. I remember my one friend who was a Pens fan was not very happy at it. So, anyways, on to the bottom 6. Your bottom 6 is Carter Verhaeghe, Noel Acciari, and Frank Vetrano. Then you have Mason Marchment, Lou Osterrainen, and Tippett. So that's your bottom 6 there. As for the filling guys, Joe Thornton, Zach Dalp, Ryan Lomberg, Lamico, Lundell, and Maxson. So, as for all the guys there, definitely Lundell's going to get a shot. Most definitely. He could even get a shot right out of camp. He could push Mason Marchment out of that picture. That could literally really happen. So, but anyways, outside of that, I really do like that bottom 6. Verhaeghe is a top 6 forward playing on bottom 6. I can only imagine what he's going to do down there. Acciari, very solid forward. Vetrano, another solid underrated forward. Tippett getting another big chance in the NHL. We'll see how he does. The Osterrainen, obviously, solid player. Marchment as well. You know, you have the other guys there too. Anyways, moving on to the blue line. The blue line's interesting. I really do like this blue line. It's a lot of depth and a lot of underrated players. As for that first pairing, you have Mackenzie Weegar and Aaron Ekblad. Then you have Marcus Nunavara and Brandon Montour. Then you have Gustav Forsling and Radko Gudez. And then as for the fourth pairing, which is basically just the fill-in pairing, you have Matt Kierstad and Noah Juleson. So as for the first pairing, Weegar and Ekblad underrated. Weegar also underrated as well. I really like the both of those guys. Nunavara underrated. Montour, at this point, you could even say he's underrated as well. As for the third pairing, you got Forsling and Gudez. Gudez is a good hitter. He's a good fighter. I saw that in Philadelphia when he was there when I was... Forsling, very solid as well. And then Kierstad, very solid up-and-coming rookie. Nobody's really talking about this guy. Kierstad is interesting because I listened to a Panthers podcast interview with him. I don't know if you guys listened to, I forgot what it's called. I think it's Territory Talk. If I'm not mistaken, Florida Panthers fans, you may have watched that. But yeah, they gave Kierstad an interview, and he sounded really interesting. He sounded really excited to get a legitimate shot in the NHL, and I very well think he could right out of the gate. Then you also have Noah Juleson as well, another solid guy they picked up off of waivers from, I think, Carolina last season. He'll be solid depth. As for the goaltending, it really depends. It really depends, because for me, everyone's saying, oh, yeah, Spencer Knight's going to start. I'm like, I don't know if that's really going to happen. Because, I mean, sure, Spencer Knight's the goalie of the future, and Bobrovsky's Bobrovsky, but he's young. Knight is very young, and he's hardly played any games in the NHL. Dead honest. And that's why I have Bobrovsky, Knight, Montembeault. Out of there, I would understand if they put Spencer Knight as a starter. I really would, because Bobrovsky's Bobrovsky. He's going to be there for the rest of his career, probably. No one's going to sign him after that. I mean, Bobrovsky's going to get a chance to play well again, but, apart from that, not really. So I think Knight, obviously, is going to be probably the starter, but I put Bobrovsky up there because, honestly, that's kind of how I look at it. So, as for the forward core, I love that forward core. Very solid. As for the blue line, love that blue line. It's pretty underrated. Some of those guys don't get talked about enough. And as for the goaltending, the starter is good. The backup's a little bit of a question, and Sam Montembeault as well as Sam Montembeault. He never really got a shot in the NHL, but I still think he's solid. So, yeah, that is your projected lineup for the Florida Panthers. Moving on to our final question here facing this Florida Panthers team. Do they make the playoffs? And here's the thing with me. Here's the thing. I'm going to say yes. Yes, I do think they'll make the playoffs. But I think some people are overrating the Panthers. And I'm not saying that to be a dick towards Panthers and Panthers fans, even though there's not that many of you. But, just kidding. The thing is with that is, like, I don't really know. That division is so competitive. Anything can happen. So I have them making the playoffs, but I'm not sure if they'll win their division. I'm not sure if they'll come second, third. Maybe they'll be a wild card place. You never know because you have Boston, Toronto, Tampa. Reminder, Tampa, still Tampa. And then, of course, you have Montreal in there as a dark horse. You got a couple of the teams in there, too. It's going to be a really interesting division. And generally, it's going to be a really interesting conference, too. Because the Metro's another thing, too. So, anyways, let me know what your guys' thoughts down in the comments below. I appreciate it if y'all went over and subscribed to the channel. I really would appreciate it. And, yeah, thank you for watching. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.